Riham, thank you very much for taking the time to talk to us today. We're meeting after yet another horrific event in Gaza with the order yet again to evacuate Khan Yunis. Can you just tell us what happened?
Okay. Thanks, Carol, and thanks, Justine, and welcome everybody here. And first, I would like always to express our thank as a Palestinian people to Irish government and Irish people for their continuous support and solidarity for the rights of the Palestinian people, their right to life, their right to justice, their right to everything. Thanks for the recognition of Palestinian state. We always are very grateful to have you as a free people. Thanks from our hearts to you and to your people, to your words, to you, to every action you take for supporting Palestinians, for supporting the right people, for supporting the international justice. Thanks, Justine, and thanks, Carol. The situation is very, very complicated and very worse in Gaza. Each minute without ceasefire means a lot of suffering, a new displacement, a new bombing, a new victims, and now Khan Yunis was displaced and was under threat and under attack for previous months, and it was the Israeli authorities declared that they ended their operation there, and then they come and they return to Khan Yunis and order the people who returned to their demolished house, destroyed house in Khan Yunis to continue their lives after they were displaced from Rafah and other areas. And suddenly they receive and they hear that there will be a new evacuation orders, and the Israeli armies, the Israeli authorities start bombing Khan Yunis immediately after the evacuation orders, when the people do not have enough time to go to flee to another place. So they were displaced, they were running under bombing, under the bullets of a quadcopter, under the shooting. The people, they are fleeing while they are exhausted, without water, without food, under the hot sun, as we witness one of the hottest temperatures in the year now. And the people have a question in their mind, and a continuous question, where we can go. Is there still a place that we can shelter in? No safe place in Gaza. All the places are targeted. The areas that were threatened with evacuation and that were given evacuation orders in Khan Yunis were designated by Israeli soldiers as a safe zone, as a humanitarian zone. So why they keep giving people evacuation orders in their safe zone where they can go in Gaza? There is no tents, there is no equipment, there is no shelters, there is no water, and even the humanitarian zones are lacking everything, are lacking air, every basic humanitarian items, water, shelters, toilets, food, sanitation. So around 400,000 people are evacuated, and they are running under the sun, under the bombing, and they do not know where they can go. This is the continuous question in Gaza, not in Khan Yunis, but in other parts in the north, in Gaza cities, in Jabalia. All these areas, that have Israeli and face Israeli military operation, and then the Israeli army declared that they ended Israeli operation there, and then they come back to those areas to attack the people, the civilians people, and who are the victims are children and women, elderly, patients, and other people who do not have any political affiliation, do not have any activities to do.
And Riham, sadly, the what is happening in Gaza has been slipping down the international news agenda, and what's happening in the American presidential election is getting all the headlines now. So we're not hearing as much about what's happening in Gaza. What is day-to-day life for people in the territory? What's it like? Is it possible to have any sort of normal life at all there?
At all. You can, what it is appearing on the media, it is nothing. The hidden things is the most important things. No normal life, no humanitarian life at all. The people lack food. Most of all the population in Gaza are suffering from catastrophic level of hunger. They do not have access to water. The average of quantity of water available to people, to each individual in Gaza, is below 3 liters, while the usual in usual conditions, the people need more than 50 liters of water, and in emergency they need 15 liters of water. These quantities are not available according to the destruction of water destination planet. Limited fuel that it is entered to Gaza, which is needed to desalination planet, as we know that Gaza water is polluted, and it become cleared through the desalination planet, and desalination planet won't need energy, need fuel, and fuel is not allowed. And there is a restriction in humanitarian aid. Aid is being hindered and impeded to enter Gaza, especially after the ground invasion to Rafah. Gaza needs every day 1,580 trucks according to Oxfam estimation. But what it is delivered, it is very low, less than 60 trucks. And for example, during this July, from the beginning of this July, according to this moment, only around 241 trucks, humanitarian trucks, that were entered to Gaza. The Israeli authorities keep declaring that they allow more, and which including commercial trucks, which are unaffordable by the people due to the deterioration of economic situation, the loss of livelihoods. The people in Gaza, all of them depend on aid, and aid is very limited and cannot reach the people in need, especially in the north of Gaza and in the middle of Gaza city. The famine is spreading everywhere. People cannot have meals, and women skip meals for days and days. Women are hungry. Pregnant women cannot get food they want. No fresh vegetables, no fresh food, no proteins, no vitamins. What it is delivered, if they reach, are canned food, which is not healthy for the health of women and the pregnant women. And so there are increasing number and rates of miscarriages, and babies with low weights under the standard weights recommended by the World Health Organizations. And sometimes women have complications from give birth. Women in Gaza, pregnant women, for example, they give birth under severe condition, the normal life is not normal life. People in Gaza, and including women, children, elderly patients, people with chronic disease, bear conditions that couldn't and are not beared by other people in the world. We are talking about the collapse of whole health system. No hospitals, and even hospitals are overcrowded with injured people and with victims. No medical supplies, no anesthesia for cesarean sections and for amputation. Imagine that cesarean sections for women are conducted without anesthesia because it is not available, it is not allowed to be entered Gaza by the Israeli authorities. No medical supplies, no clear water, no nutritious food, even clothes for the people. People are living in makeshift tents, in nylon tents, no hygiene, no water, no toilets, no privacy. So this is the life of the people. We are talking about we have around 1 million women in Gaza. Each woman in Gaza suffered from the loss of her relative, friends, family members, neighbors, and the loss of houses. More than 80% of infrastructure of Gaza were destroyed. We are talking about schools, universities, public parks, libraries, buildings, towers, restaurants. All of these components were completely destroyed.
And the UN has been warning for several months now about famine in Gaza, and we are seeing shockingly underweight children on our television screens. Are people actually dying from starvation in Gaza?
Yes, they are dying, and there are some more than 40 children were died because of famine, died of famine. But these numbers do not reflect the reality due to difficulties in documentation, because not of the people who did can document or can report to health authorities in Gaza due to the lack of communication and internet, the destruction of internet, and who are not dying. They have malnutrition, they have diseases, they have skin malnutrition, respiratory diseases due to the environmental catastrophe, the accumulation of rubbles, no nutritious food or good food, fresh food, no clear water. So all of this, and there is also a report for a scientific newspaper or magazine that the toll of victims will reach 186,000 people, because many people will die of diseases, will die of malnutrition. And each day we hear about many cases of malnutrition, especially children and women, because they cannot have access to sufficient food. As we know, before the war, Gaza used to be a coastal city, depends in food system and food habits on fish foods and on agricultural foods and on fresh vegetables and the fruit. But these components were completely destroyed. The agricultural land were destroyed and burned. The fish boats are damaged, and fishermen cannot reach the sea to get fish because of the continuous bombing, the continuous attacking for them, and the destruction of the roads. We are talking about the roads and streets of Gaza are full of rubbles. So, for example, the Israeli authorities declared that Kerem Shalom crossing border is opened, and they leave the humanitarian aid at that crossing border. But from that point, the aid cannot be delivered to other parts of Gaza due to the destruction of the roads and the need of a fuel for aid truck to deliver the aids to the people. So sometimes, especially the food assistance or food aid, get spoiled due to long hours of waiting at the checkpoint under the sun and under the lack of storing conditions. So, and now we are talking, there is a spread for the polio and the lack of vaccines to children. Vaccines is not delivered to Gaza to health authorities or health hospitals. And if it is delivered, where they can be stored, we do not have electricity. There is no electricity, no refrigerators, no energy to keep them safe this vaccination. And children, they cannot reach health points, health centers, health hospitals to get those vaccination. It is a continuous bombing while the world is busy, as you said, in American presidency. Gaza, now the bombing, the scale of bombing, scale of military operation now in Gaza is similar to the beginning of the war.
And Riham, will you just tell us what ActionAid is doing in Gaza and what sort of programs you're running and who is working to try and alleviate some of the suffering?
Yes, we're working through our local partners in Gaza, trying to support them to provide hot meals and to provide also a fresh produce and like vegetables from local providers with high prices due to the situation. And sometimes our response is being delayed due to the situation on the ground. We also try work with some providers and some vendors and some people, some companies to provide clear water in parts of Gaza. We also are partnered with Al Auda Hospital, which is in the north, which is the only hospital that provides maternity services for pregnant women in the north of Gaza, trying to support them with medical supplies, with some support to help them to continue their important work. And also we have GBV protection services for women in Gaza. And also we provide and we support our partners to provide hygiene and sanitation items for women in Gaza. But this depends on the availability of those items and on the delivery and the process of entering and delivering aid through crossing borders. We could deliver one aid truck of hygiene items to after the closure of Rafah checkpoint through Karim Abu Salim or Karim Shalom crossing borders. Our aid trucks are waiting in Al Arish, which is an Egyptian area, waiting for approval to be entered and to be allowed into Gaza. These aid trucks contain hygiene items for women and for pregnant women and for girls in Gaza. Again, sometimes we depend on local providers, but this costs us a lot of high prices due to the situation, and sometimes we need also high prices and large sum of money for fuel, for aid, for trucks to deliver aid to other parts of Gaza. We try to provide and to support our partners as much as we can, but our partners sometimes they suffer because of the repeated displacement. They have to move from a place to another to move their offices or some equipments. We work with lead women organization, and these organizations are affected. Some of them some of their offices were damaged and they couldn't move also their equipment, and their equipment were damaged. We try to provide some psychosocial support and some for women and for women affected by GBV and affected are divorced women. But still, we lack safe spaces for women in shelters and overcrowded shelters and tents. And this is common in Gaza. And for the legal support, which we worked on in the past, now it couldn't be effective in this time because there is a dysfunction for courts and for the legal system in Gaza. Courts cannot work. And sometimes the consultations through phone and through mobiles are not working due to the destruction, to the disconnection of internet services in Gaza. So this situation impede and sometimes make the response, the humanitarian response of organization extremely difficult, extremely impossible, but we try because we believe that it is our duty to keep working and to keep responding to the needs of the people on the ground.
The American government built a temporary pier to facilitate the delivery of aid, which that pier failed to serve its purpose and is no longer in use. Today, the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is in America, and he's going to address Congress tomorrow, and he's going to have probably a meeting with President Biden. What would you say to America, to President Biden right now? Please do this as a practical initiative to help. What can America do?
Yes. First of all, America can practice pressure on Israeli government to stop this war. And when America and the U.S. administration built this pier, this indicated its failure to reach a ceasefire, to impose ceasefire, because there are a ground crossing borders. And the crossing borders and the crossing channels and ground channels and the ground routes are the effective way for delivering aids for Gaza. They need only political will and political solution. The aids are accumulated and are waiting meters from the people they need. The building of the pier was a failure for the international community to reach a just solution for Gaza, and it wasn't an effective way to deliver humanitarian aid because since its beginning this year until the time that was dismantled, only 350 trucks were delivered through this pier, while Gaza before the war used to receive each day 500 aid trucks. So can you imagine? So the ground routes are the effective and the sufficient tools for delivering aid. Gaza needs peace, needs ceasefire. And our message to President Biden, you can stand for humanity before you leave and impose and practice your pressures to put an end to this war. You will be remembered if you could save the lives of the people in Gaza. But if you keep have a blind eyes and deaf ears to the suffering of the people, to the failure of the international community, then no stability in the world will be achieved. Because we Palestinians believe, all the free world believe, will no justice in the world, will no stability in the region without just a political solution for the plight of the Palestinian people. And this war is a result of ignorance, of neglect, of reaching a just and a political and a root solution for the Palestinian cause.
When the Israeli government accused workers with the UN Relief from Works Agency of having been involved in the attack in Israel on October 8th, almost immediately, countries around the world suspended their funding for Palestine. How much does that demonizing of NGOs affect your work, ActionAid's work, the idea that NGOs are being depicted as being partisan or helping one side rather than the other?
Now, the decision of those governments was baseless because they do not want, and they do not want for the investigation or international investigation done by UNRWA or by other international organization. And there were international investigation, and there's an international investigation inside UNRWA and other organizations that there is no clear evidence for the involvement of the staff of those incidents. But we need here to stress the fact that UNRWA is the main and the largest humanitarian actor in Gaza, and all the humanitarian organizations working in Palestine cannot replace UNRWA, because UNRWA, it is the biggest. It is responsible for around 2 million refugees, especially in Gaza, and and other millions of refugees in the Middle East. So attack on UNRWA means attack on the humanitarian work. Humanitarian aid organizations and the humanitarian aid worker should be protected and should be supported. And any accusation should be built and should be referred to international transparent investigation. So the world should should refer to a judgment and making decision regarding the international issues and important decisions like Gaza decision. So we need on all issues here, international transparency and UN inquiry should be activated to build and to inform any decisions. And humanitarian work, especially in Gaza, should be protected at this time, which is Gaza now, it is in the most need, in a dire need to the support of UNRWA and other organizations. And aid workers should be protected, or should not be a target. But what we see in Gaza, more than 190 people from UNRWA staff were killed while they are performing their duties. They continue their works under unimaginable conditions in responding to the needs of the people. The UN schools, UNRWA schools in Gaza, and UNRWA health clinics were targeted. We do not see the world take action towards targeting those schools. Each day there is a targeting for UNRWA shelter in Gaza, and we do not see those government have the same position towards Israeli government. What frustrated the Palestinian people is the double standards that from the world, that they do not have the same positions with other cases, with similar cases. We do not have these position. When there is a war against Ukraine, we see how the world supported and how America and Europe supported the Ukrainian cause. Although at the same time we refuse any war as a Palestinian against civilian in any peace on the earth, on any a place in the earth, civilians should not be targeted, should be protected. And this case and this issue should be adhered, should be applicable to Palestinians. Now the children are killed in Gaza, women are killed, women are deprived from every basic things. The possible thing, the basic things for other women in the world has become an impossible thing to achieve for women in Gaza. The sanitation baths for women during the period, during the menstrual issues are not available in Gaza. Women resort or use pieces of tents and scraps of nylon as an alternative to those baths. And you can imagine the effects and the impacts on the health of women on the long term. Women do not have a privacy in the tents. The privacy, they let their children and husbands outside of the tents when she wants to take a shower. And when she takes the shower, she takes a shower once each 4 weeks under the sun. While before the war, because of the coastal nature of Gaza, women in Gaza or the people in Gaza used to have shower once or twice a day, but now they cannot shower or cannot have a shower for weeks and weeks. Women are hungry for days and days, and they give a priority of the food to their children. So this is the reality. This is what the people think of when they look at the words and how they perceive the words, especially in Europe and US.
Yeah. I have loads more questions for you, but I think we only have 2 minutes left before we go to questions. I just one last thing. I presume you are far too busy to be following the news in Ireland, but there have been frequent marches here all around the country against what Israel is doing in Gaza, and the Irish government has formally recognised the Palestinian state. But there's still an overwhelming feeling of powerlessness, that people don't know what they can do to make a difference. What can we do here in Ireland to help you and your colleagues in ActionAid and your compatriots in Gaza?
Thanks for this question. The Palestinian people see the Irish people, Irish activism with regard to the Palestinian case as an important actions, and we need the Irish people to keep calling for ceasefire and keep calling for just solution. The end of the war, it is not and the end of the suffering. We need a political solution and end of occupation. This is what we need and what we need you to call for. We need to practice all the pressures that you can to tell Israel that should adhere to international law. You can also call European government and ask them and call government to work with other governments to take similar actions with regard to Palestine, because as Mandela always says, our freedom is incomplete without the freedom of Palestine. So it is important for the world to reach a just solution for Palestinians, because if international law is implemented and enforced in Palestine, it will be implemented in other places on the world. This case is a test for humanity, and the humanity should pass this test, this exam, should stand for their humanity. The free people in the world, as Irish people, are free and they are doing their duty. They are fulfilling their duty towards their humanity through marches, through protest, through the recognition of Palestine state.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. I could listen to you forever.
I would just like to really extend my thank you to Riham for her ongoing amazing work. And, it really is an absolute privilege and a humbling privilege to work alongside ActionAid Palestine and our partners who, against all the odds, keep going. And without you, we wouldn't know the extent of things that are happening. We wouldn't be reaching the people we're reaching. So just huge gratitude from Ireland. And also a huge thank you to Justine for joining us and taking us through the conversation. It's so important. The media keeps the attention up here, and we're really, really grateful to Justine for taking time out to join us. And finally, thank you to all who joined on your lunch break. I'm struck, I suppose, by the strong words of solidarity from Sierra Leone and South Africa, and I think it's no coincidence there, and something very humbling to remember. And also, I think, people living in Ireland are horrified at what's happening, and we need to keep talking about Gaza. We need to keep the focus on, and thank you for taking time out of your lunch break to listen to Riham and to hear more about what's happening there. So thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank